Welcome to Healing Circle, where shared experiences become a source of strength, healing, and connection. This is your boy Gabe, your nurse ally, and this is a space for nurses, healthcare workers, and really anyone who has faced the emotional weight of caring for others. Here we tell real stories of resilience, vulnerability, and growth, because healing happens when we acknowledge our struggles and lift each other up. Whether you're a seasoned nurse, a new grad, or someone seeking comfort in shared experiences, you're not alone. Let's navigate the highs and lows of our profession together. This is our healing circle, so let's begin. Stepping onto the hospital floor as a brand new nurse is a moment filled with excitement, nerves, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. We spend many years preparing for this role, but nothing quite prepares us for the emotional weight of our first real emergency. In today's Healing Circle story, we'll walk through a defining moment for any nurse, the first code blue. It's the moment where training meets reality, where fear often collides with action, and where we learn one of the hardest truths about nursing, that we don't always win. But in those moments, we also discover what it truly means to be a nurse. Let's step into this story together. I had dreamt of this day for years, the day I would finally step onto the floor as a real nurse, the weight of my scrubs marking my transition from student to professional. But nothing could have prepared me for the sheer enormity of responsibility that came with it. As I arrived for my shift that morning, a mixture of excitement and anxiety buzzed through me. I wanted to prove myself, to show my preceptor, my colleagues, and most of all, myself, that I belonged here. I had worked so hard to get to this moment: endless study sessions, clinical rotations, simulations, but standing there in the middle of this bustling unit, I felt like a small fish in a very vast ocean. The medical surgical floor was alive with activity, monitors beeping, call lights flashing, nurses moving with a quiet urgency that I hope to one day embody with the same grace. My preceptor, a seasoned nurse named Lisa, had given me the rundown of my patient assignments for the day. I had been following her lead for weeks, but today, for the first time, she let me take the reins while she stood back and observed. I worked diligently, double checking my orders, ensuring my medications were correct, taking my time with each assessment. Every time I finished a task, I felt a small rush of accomplishment. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I was ready. But then it happened. Code Blue, room 314. The overhead announcement rang through the unit like a thunderclap, shaking me out of my illusion of control. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. Lisa barely hesitated. "Let's go," she said, grabbing my arm and pulling me down the hall. My feet moved before my brain caught up. As we rushed into the room, the sight before me was nothing like the control simulations I had practiced in nursing school. This was raw, unfiltered chaos. The patient, a middle-aged man, lay motionless in the bed, his face pale, his lips turning blue. The nurse who had found him was already performing chest compressions, sweat beading down on her forehead. A respiratory therapist worked furiously to bag him, forcing oxygen into his lungs, while the doctor barked out orders with an urgency that sent a shiver down my spine. "Get in here, rotate in," someone shouted. My mind screamed, No, I can't do this." But my body moved on autopilot, pushing through the fear. I stepped forward, positioned my hands over his sternum just as I had practiced in ACLS training, and started compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. The man's ribs cracked under the force of my hands. I sucked in a sharp breath, but I didn't stop. I knew from training that this was normal, that I had to push through it, but this wasn't a mannequin. This was a real person. 15, 16, 17. My arms burned, my muscles screaming in protest, but I kept going. I wasn't sure if the sweat dripping down my face was from exertion or sheer panic. "Switch," someone commanded, and I stumbled back as another nurse took my place. I barely had time to catch my breath before someone shoved an ambu bag into my hands. "Bag him." I fumbled, my hands shaking as I squeezed the bag in rhythm with compressions, watching his chest rise and fall artificially. My ears barely registered the call for epinephrine, the charge of the defibrillator. "Clear." The shock made his body jolt violently off the bed. "Resume compressions." I felt like I was outside of my own body, watching it all unfold. Another round of compressions, another dose of epinephrine, another shock. Minutes stretched into what I felt like eternity. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out everything except the desperate hope that something, anything, would change. Then, the worst words I'd ever heard in my life. Time of death, 1437. The world stopped. The team slowed to a halt. The beeping monitors, the frantic hands, the coordinated effort, it all came to an eerie stillness. The reality of it crushed the air from my lungs. I stepped back, staring at that lifeless body in the bed, my mind trying to comprehend what had just happened. Just minutes ago, this man had been alive, breathing, existing, and now he was gone. Lisa gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "Come on," she said softly. "Let's step out." I followed her numbly into the hallway. I felt weightless, untethered from reality. I had just participated in my first code blue, and the patient had died. My chest tightened, an invisible force wrapping around my ribcage. I wanted to scream, to cry, to run. What had I done wrong? Had I not pushed hard enough? Fast enough? Could we have done something differently? Lisa must have seen the turmoil on my face because she nudged me toward an empty room and shut the door behind us. "You okay?" she asked. I couldn't answer. If I spoke, the dam would break and I'd lose what little control I had left. Lisa sighed and leaned against the counter. "My first code blue? The patient didn't make it either." She gave me a knowing look, and I blamed myself too. I swallowed the lump in my throat. My voice cracked. "I don't know if I can do this." "You can," she said firmly. "You did everything right. The team did everything right. But sometimes, no matter what we do, people die. That's the hardest part of this job." A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. "I wanted to save him." She nodded. "We all did." The weight of her words settled into me, grounding me. I wasn't alone in this. This wasn't just my burden to bear. After a moment, she added, This will stay with you. It always does. But it will also shape you into the nurse you're meant to be." I inhaled shakily, nodding. I didn't feel strong enough yet, but maybe, just maybe, one day I would. That night, as I walked out of the hospital, I replayed every second of the code in my mind. The loss still stung, the doubts still lingered, but something else had taken root in me, a resolve. I had stepped into the chaos, I had pushed through the fear, and no matter how hard it had been, I had shown up. I realized then that nursing wasn't just about saving lives. It was about standing in the gap between life and death, about fighting for people in their most vulnerable moments. Even when we lost, we still fought, and that, I knew, was worth everything. Experiencing a code blue as a new nurse or at any point in your career leaves an impact that goes far beyond the walls of the hospital. The weight of that moment, the questions, the what ifs, they can follow you home, settle into your thoughts, and make you wonder if you did enough. This is what we call the second victim experience, when the caregiver, the responder, becomes affected by the emotional and psychological toll of an event. But here's what I want you to remember: you are not alone in this. Every nurse, every healthcare worker has faced a moment of doubt, a moment of loss that felt too heavy to carry alone. And you don't have to carry it alone. Talk about it. Lean on your colleagues, your mentors, your support system. Debrief with your team. Take a moment to breathe and allow yourself to process the emotions. This is not a sign of weakness, it's a part of the healing. With time, these moments don't necessarily get easier, but you will get stronger. You will learn that showing up, giving your best, and fighting for your patients, no matter the outcome, makes you the kind of nurse that truly makes a difference. So, if you've been through a moment like this, if you've carried the weight of a loss, know that your feelings are valid, but also know that you don't have to navigate them alone. Healing happens when we acknowledge, reflect, and support one another. And that's what this healing circle is all about. My hope is that these stories give you space to breathe, heal, and realize you're not alone in your journey. A quick tip before we go: the next time a heavy moment lingers, I want you to pause for one deep breath in and one slow breath out. It won't erase the pain, but it can anchor you long enough to remind yourself you're still here and you're still enough. Thank you for being here, for sharing in this story, and for being part of this journey with me. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and remember, you are never alone in this.